today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the Win&Win WIAWIS ACS-LX stabilizer system. I've got a couple of different options here. I'm going to show you them up close. I'm going to shoot each different option, including a few different dampers that Win&Win sent to me, and I'll let you know what I think about the new WIAWIS ACS-LX stabilizer system. Full disclosure, like always on the channel, Win&Win did send me these stabilizers for the sake of a review on the channel. I only do that under one condition, and that I will be truly honest with you, the viewers, as to what I see in these stabilizers. However, if I do find anything that is wrong, I will contact Win&Win first and ask them maybe there's a defect, maybe I'm doing something wrong, and clarify something with them before then posting their response also with this video. So just like I always do, I just wanted to let you guys know that because that is important to know. However, I am not sponsored, and I do these reviews because I like playing with archery equipment, and I think it's really important for you to have unbiased feedback in seeing what other people think about gear in case you're interested in grabbing some. And speaking of, if you are interested in these, links down in the description below to Lancaster Archery Supply. Those are affiliate links. Genuinely helps this channel out when you click those links before you shop there. Even if you're not buying these stabilizers, those cookies track you for 30 days. So if you come back and click links every 30 days, if you shop at Lancaster, really helps this channel out. And it allows me to purchase equipment like I have done in the past, and I'm continuing to do so just so I can review it on the channel. Sorry about the rooster. There he goes. I've had to stop and redo cuts many times already today, and it's just going to be ridiculous and a long day if I don't somehow roll over some of these. So I'm going to set the bow down in the background, and what I'll do is I'm going to show you some of the stuff up close because I have all sorts of different components. I've got different length stabilizers, different length V-bars, different weight systems, different dampers, and extensions and V-bar brackets and all sorts of different things that we're going to show you here today. So first we'll start with the actual long rod stabilizer itself. So the finish on this thing is super nice. It's going to match all of the latest painted risers. This is a Remington red stabilizer that is the ACS-LX stabilizer. We'll show you it again up close. The end caps are very nice. It comes with this plastic washer on the end that's really tough to get off. I'm not a fan of those. I usually pull those off. A little hole that you can stick an Allen wrench in to tighten things up, and you can see the finish on this thing. There's a little paint drip right there by my pinky that I found. Other than that, I don't really see a whole lot of flaws in the actual finish. The masking lines are pretty sharp here where it goes away from the paint into the raw carbon fiber finish. It is a very thick red paint, so you see a big dip in the actual clear coat and then one more drip right there. But to get this kind of flow out and this kind of finish, you really got to load up the clear coat, and I'm thinking that's just what happened because I don't see a tremendous amount of orange peel or anything like that. The finish on these are all really nice looking. It really grabs the light with this waffle looking pattern that they wrap the stabilizers with. Every stabilizer seems to be coming with this same weight pack here, so this whole thing here comes off, and there's also different segments. Now the threads on these are 1/4-20. They are kind of standard for the most part. Most recurve stabilizers, especially stabilizers in the past, use the 1/4-20 thread for whatever reason. I think it's just been that way, so they kind of stick with it. Can't quite get these apart, but it does come apart to where this is 1 ounce, I believe, and then this is another section. This is another section that's just the end cap with no hole. And so when they're all together, you know, it's a really nice package, and the actual finish kind of, you know, translates down the rod onto the stabilizers. Now the stabilizers themselves come in these clear protective tubes, and it's got a little bit of info on the ends here, so you can see that they have different options for the long rod, the side rods, and the extender. They call them the short rods, but the actual length options in the long rod are 26, 28, 30, and 32. The short rod, the V-bars, are 10, 11, 12, 14, and 15. And the extensions are 3, 4, 5, and 6 inches. So you've got a lot of different options to pick from. And from what I gather, they're in a few different colors. So you've got the Remington red. I've got black ones behind me. I'll show you those as well. I have them in both 15-inch side rods as well as the 11-inch side rods. So the V-bar brackets are really, really sharp. This is the CXA V-bar bracket. It is carbon fiber, and you can see the layup. This one's in matte finish. They also have a gloss finish as well. That's on the bow behind me, and they come in 2 different angles. They also come in these nice little cases here, and they come with eye bolts as well. So you've got a 40 and 45 degree in both gloss and matte finish. And I love the little containers, and they're kind of like machinist containers where you put parts and tools and things like that in it. And they do come with matching eye bolts that match the actual weight system. Also have that clear washer. I would remove it personally, but goes through the V-bar bracket and bolts into your extension, which then you screw onto your bow. If you don't know how to set up stabilizers and properly assemble the extension and V-bar bracket and eye bolt or quick disconnect, I will include a link down in the description below and a card at the top up there to a video I've already created on how to properly set those up and how to do it in the proper order, because I see so many people struggle with these things spinning all the time and the angles being wrong, and it's a bit of a pain in the butt unless you know what you're doing. So I made a video to show you how to do it properly. Some other bits and pieces that they sent to me are a couple different extensions. I've got a 3-inch one here that just says WIAWIS across. It's got the same little marks, same holes to tighten them as well, and the same style, same look. Everything looks really nice. The finish, the fit, the weight of them is actually really, really lightweight. The actual side rods, quick look at them. Just like the long rod, graphics match. All the details, the end cap, all that stuff, it all matches. Also, I'll be trying out a couple of different dampers. They sent me 2 different ones here. Let me set down these V-bars. They sent me the multi-damper, which also has a nice case, and the ADT damper, which has a nice case too. So in the multi-damper itself is just a basic rubber damper that has a quarter 20 hole on one end and a 5/16 24 hole on the other end. Now, the stabilizers were quarter 20 and the weights were quarter 20, and so you might be wondering, how the heck am I going to use this? Well, in both the ADT damper as well as the multi-damper, you have these adapters here that go from 5/16 24 to quarter 20, and both of them, both ends of it, have holes for Allen wrenches. So they spent the time to machine these things with a Allen wrench hole on either end, so you can access them to tighten them or remove them from stuck weights or stuck dampers. It's a really nice touch because most companies that have these do not have the holes in them to actually remove that. So what you would do is you would take one of these adapters for these particular stabilizers, and you would screw it into the 5/16 24 hole with the 5/16 end, like so. Then you can take your weights off, take the Allen wrench out, put the other Allen wrench in the other end, screw the weights on, and then take this one, which has the adapter. So now we've got the multi-damper on the end here. We'll try the ADT damper and we'll try the multi-damper, and I'll let you know what I think of it. In the ADT damper is very similar to the multi-damper in that we have a bunch of different set screws and adapters. We also have, instructions in both of them. But what's different about this ADT damper is you have a damper and a damper cup. So there's 2 different pieces here. And what they do is they screw together. So the damper is very similar to the multi-damper in that it has the quarter 20 and the 5/16 24. It looks very, very similar, but it's slightly different. So if you check, this is the multi-damper, this is the ADT damper. So the dampers are basically the same, but what's different is this cup is machined with a 5/16 24 bolt on the inside, if you can see it down in there, and it receives that end of the damper. And what it allows you to do is you can just touch for them to be weak and soft, or you crank them in a little bit, it stiffens it up some. Crank it in some more and it stiffens it up even more. So in theory, this should be able to adjust the damping of the weight on the stabilizer if you have the ADT damper system. I'm going to find out. I will try this out and put it to the test and see. And on the end of the ADT damper is that 5/16 24. And so you could, in theory, use these for compound stabilizers because of that bigger weight hole, and then adapt this 1/4 end to the 5/16 24 with the adapter that came with the kit. And you could be able to use these on stabilizers or other stabilizers rather that use 5/16 24 thread, or maybe you have weights that are laying around that you want to use. You could use these in theory. But I'm going to try them today using the Win&Win weights with the 1/4 threads. And now, really quick look up of the gloss V-bar bracket. I've got a 5-inch extension. These are the 11-inch side rods, and I believe the 28-inch stabilizer. Yeah, because the other one is 30. So this one's kind of set up like a Korean style with a much more front heavy bias to get that roll forward and the launch out of the hand. And this is going to be the first stabilizer system that I'm going to shoot with as far as the testing. I'm going to start with the weights directly on the stabilizers and then introduce a few different dampers and discuss with you how it feels, how it changes the feel of the bow. And then I'll throw on the 15-inch side rods with a 3-inch extension and a 40-degree V-bar bracket, because this one's 45, so they're out a little wider. And it will mimic a bit more as to the stabilizer system that I've been shooting recently as far as like my balance is concerned, because this one is basically completely forward biased. And before I get into the actual shooting, I just wanted to also reiterate, in case you didn't know this, I am giving away this bow. I'm giving away the riser, the limbs, whether that be on these NSXPs or the MXT-XT limbs in your choice of weight and length, as well as this complete stabilizer system, this ACS-LX system, this exact one on this bow, to you for free. There is no purchase necessary, or you can go to jkaminski.com, kaminskiarchery.com, and every dollar you spend there gives you 1 entry, and that goes through the end of November. For full details, I'll have links down in the description below and a card at the top up there in case you're interested. But I just wanted to highlight that this stabilizer system that I'm reviewing here is what I'm going to be giving away attached to this Meta LX riser, as well as your choice of limbs from WIAWIS. So super excited about giving that away. It's a huge package, including a bow case, a carbon clicker, and a hat, and a few other things. Basically about $4,000 worth of gear right now, which is a huge amount. Doesn't matter where you are worldwide, we'll ship it to you if you win, and good luck to everyone out there. So what I will do now is I'm going to take off these ADT dampers and put the weights directly onto the side rods and the long rod. We'll kind of get a bit of a baseline feel as far as vibration properties, sound quality, that kind of stuff. And then I will start to throw some dampers on and see what happens when we start to add that into the stabilizer system. Before I shoot them, I do think that I'm going to make a prediction that the ones without the dampers are going to sound very interesting, because I banged one of these against each other on accident. Lots of resonance there, right? So the one with the damper in it probably, yeah, just super dead. So I'm betting that it's gonna sound pretty interesting without any dampers in it. I have a camera down there as well, so you can see the impacts the whole time. And in case you're interested, I'm just here at 30 meters on an 80 centimeter face. Yeah. Just as suspected. Very pingy, rolls forward an insane amount compared to what I'm used to. So much so that it really pulls my wrist downward as it's finishing its roll at the end of my follow through there. You know, I can feel definitely a considerable amount of vibration in the handle on my finger when it jumps into my finger before it starts to swing, and then I can feel a good amount of that going on where you can see that happening, which you can even hear it because there is no vibration damping in the system. And so it's definitely on the wobbly side of things. Yeah, I mean, the bow jumps well, but that's to be expected with these limbs and this riser. So I'm gonna throw on the multi-damper first. All right, so this is a perfect case in point as to why you want to have these holes in the end of the actual threaded section. I can't get this thing out. It's jammed, and you can't grab those threads with a pair of pliers because you'll really damage them. So you just grab your set of Allen wrenches and just crack it free. Now it comes out like nothing. So that's really the biggest benefit of a company that spends the time to do that type of stuff, because I have not yet seen that in any of these dampers, or any of these adapters, sorry, that go from 5/16 24 to 1/4 20. I've not seen a single one that has spent the time to broach either end of that threaded section so you can use a Allen wrench to get it out when it gets stuck. All right, so now that I have the multi-dampers on all 3 stabilizers, I've got one here on this V-bar. I've got them on each V-bar and the long rod, and just hitting it now, you'll see, watch the limb. See how that whole shake afterwards dies really, really fast. Oh yeah. Now it's really, really nice. The sound is excellent. The rolling forward so fast just throwing me off. Yeah, I mean, this thing, there is no vibration anymore. I'm gonna go get them so I can shoot some more arrows with this setup before we swap over to the ADT dampers and play with those. But huge dramatic improvement. I would say for sure, if you're gonna run these stabilizers, you gotta run dampers, absolutely 100%. And so far, the multi-dampers are excellent. Also, throughout the video, I'm gonna leave the camera in the same place and stand in as about the same position as I possibly can, so that way you get an accurate representation as to how much the sound quality changes with the different setups. So I'm gonna shoot a couple more arrows here with this one. Yeah, I mean, I don't feel any of the limb flutter as it's rolling forward at the end of the follow through. And I have yet to feel that vibration that I was talking about when it first hits my finger before the bow starts to roll. I mean, I do feel a small amount of vibration, less than a tenth of what it was. I mean, it's just totally different. Yeah, and I didn't shoot that one the greatest. The bow did change sound pitch a little bit deeper on that one, so it doesn't dampen it so much that no feedback is felt. It just really dramatically reduces the harshness and the really awful vibration and resonance that are in these stabilizers. It's not necessarily the stabilizer's fault. It's just pretty much any stabilizer with no damping and the weight's directly on the stabilizer with like just no damping at all, it typically is very, I mean, you can hear it. That's kind of what it is. I don't think there's any internal damping inside of the stabilizer, I'd have to guess. It just doesn't seem like they've got anything in there. And the actual stiffness is quite high. This seems to be a fairly high modulus carbon, plus they have that graphene carbon that's in it. And so they're very, very resistant to actual bending. So we'll start with these ADT dampers as light as I can get them as far as how much preload the actual damper is screwed into that weight cup. And I like this idea because in theory, the more weight you have on them, the stiffer you'd want the damper to dampen the most amount of vibration. You kind of start to lose a little bit of vibration reduction properties once you get over a certain mass on a certain damper, and so it needs to be stiffer. The damper needs to be stiffer, relatively speaking, the more weight that you have on it. And so This allows you to kind of tune and adjust those things potentially a little bit easier than changing where the weight is or where the damper is in the stack. It's a little louder. It's not as quick of a vibration dampening as far as that's concerned, which makes sense because I think these are stiffer to begin with. The durometer of the actual damper feels a little stiffer on these than the other one, I believe, itself. Plus you're adding the weight cup, so it's stiffening it up dramatically. The actual balance is the same because the weight stacks the same. I just added the damper cups in the system, so it made it overall a little bit longer. Still really, really quiet, and it still has very little limb flutter. I'm going to shoot this arrow and then I'll smack the limb again and see what it does. But the limb flutter I don't feel at all still. However, I do hear a little bit more overall loudness, a little more noise. Vibration wise, very, very similar to the multi-damper. But the limb flutter, a little bit more than the multi-damper, and if you listen, it's probably because it's so loose. So let's crank these things in 3 turns. And shoot a couple more arrows and see how much it's changing. I can feel a little bit more limb. I can feel a little bit more limb flutter now. Not a ton, but definitely I can feel a little bit more of that going on. So, 3 more. That one's not a good shot, so still about the same noise that I can tell. Yeah, again, a little bit more noise, a little bit more limb flutter. And so I'm happy to see that the actual damper cups with the ADT damper offers adjustability that you can actually feel really, really quickly. I like that a lot. You don't have to disassemble anything, remove anything, stack differently, deal with set screws. You just tighten up the damper. Yeah, I'm just really happy to see that as I crank this thing down, I get a change in the actual damping of the stabilizer. And as far as the stiffness, whoops. That's back to where we were when we started. It doesn't feel all that different. It doesn't feel stiffer to the hand as far as actually bending it manually, but it definitely sounds different and it definitely feels different. So it's doing something. I just noticed as I was pulling that stabilizer off is that the extension is nice and thick compared to the actual stabilizers. The stabilizers are like a 1/2 inch OD and the extension somewhere in the 3/4 inch OD range. Definitely, I think the extension is one of the more important parts of the stabilizer system, and so when it gets too thin, the whole stabilizer system becomes really floppy, for lack of better terms, and it doesn't feel very good. So I'm glad to see that they didn't go super, super weak there on the extension. Yeah, I mean, you can just hear it. That's what it's gonna sound like. All right, so balance wise, this is much more how I normally shoot my stuff. as far as this natural angle like this when I'm just cradling the grip. The other system was a bit more in this type of configuration. However, it still is on the light side mass weight wise. Normally I run much heavier stabilizer setups, but as I add in the dampers, it starts to get much closer to where I would actually run this thing. So I'll probably just shoot 1 or 2 this way, because it's going to be, the limb flutter is going to be even worse, I'm assuming, with this balance a little bit further rearward. Oh yeah, yeah, it's just like, that's it. I'm gonna shoot 1 more. Yep, as expected. All right, so before I even shoot it, yeah, it's totally dead. I would say it potentially is even quieter than the Korean style setup. Very dead in the post-shot flutter as far as the limb flutter. I think it's definitely better than the shorter side rods and the longer extension as far as that's concerned. Let's feel the vibration as it jumps. I'd say probably less vibration too overall. So far, the quietest and least amount of vibration of just about any stabilizer I've shot, any system I've shot. All right, so I'm gonna go get them, throw the ADT dampers on next. These weight cuts are really cool because of the adjustability, but man, those multi-dampers just, they feel excellent. I think if I was a recreational shooter, I'd just be grabbing those. Simple and really effective. But these are very cool because you can adjust them. Still quite quiet. It didn't louden it up as much as the other shorter stabilizer, but the overall system, this longer system, with it closer back to me, seems to be quieter as a whole anyway. Let me shoot 1 more. I can definitely, I feel a little bit more limb flutter, but not a tremendous amount more. Definitely a little bit more harshness in the actual jumping vibration. Up. Yeah, with it tighter, same thing. I can feel more limb flutter now. And the noise quality hasn't really changed a whole lot with the longer 15-inch side rods and the shorter extension on this one here. But I can definitely feel a big difference in the limb flutter already. And quite a considerable amount of that vibration when it first jumps into my finger before it starts to roll. Yeah, definitely the same thing that happened with the other stabilizer setup. So I'm happy to see that it feels the same no matter what stabilizer's length it's on. Overall, it still has the same kind of properties. Let me reposition the camera and I'll give you my final thoughts here about these stabilizers. So final thoughts here on the Win&Win ACS-LX stabilizer system, their multi-damper and their ADT damper with their damper cup. So overall, the actual stabilizers, as far as what I like about them, is the finish on them is really, really nice. There was 2 very small clear coat drips on the Remington Red stabilizer. I don't see anything as far as that's concerned on these short rods or long rods of this black system here. It's really, really nice, the finish. I don't see really any clear coat, any orange peel in the clear coat. It is super, super sharp. The overall matching quality of it, how they have the end caps machined very similar to the eye bolt, which is machined very similar to the stabilizer weights and all of it. It's just the overall look is super premium. They spent their time to make sure things looked very similar and kind of followed the same feel throughout the entire system, and I'm really happy to see that as well. The option of the different lengths is great. They've got 3, 4, 5, and 6 inch extensions. They've got a few different long rod and short rod extensions, more than enough to, no matter how big or small you are, and no matter what you want to try, they've got you covered as far as an option that'll make sense for you. So I'm really happy to see that. The actual stiffness of the stabilizer is quite high. I like that a lot too. I also like how the extension is bigger and beefier than the actual stabilizers themselves. The stabilizers are skinnier, and it would be a shame if they would have kept that skinniness on the extension. It's really important to have a very robust extension. I don't like them solid. I don't like them super stiff, personally speaking, but having them too weak makes the whole system very floppy, and it makes the limb flutter go up dramatically. The dampers themselves worked really, really well. The multi-damper, personally speaking, was my favorite. I really liked the way the bow felt on this one. However, the coolness factor of the adjustability of the tension on this, to be able to dial the tension down or up, and the resistance to bending actually works, and it's very simple to do. So this is something that I'm a big fan of myself personally. If I competed all the time, I'd be very interested in playing with these a lot. But as like a recreational shooter that's just enjoying shooting and enjoys a good feeling bow, these multi-dampers are absolutely excellent. The V-bar bracket is really, really sharp. I like that it comes in 40 and 45 degrees. You can also order it in gloss and in matte. I really wish it had a downward angle. Personally speaking, I really like it angling downward. I'd like to see like a 40-degree width and a 15-degree down bar, personally myself, or maybe even more so than that as far as being further down. I just like having my V-bars angled down ever so slightly. It gives me a little bit more clearance when I'm loading my arrow into the bow, and I see a lot less of the stabilizers in my peripheral vision. I didn't really like to see it when I was at full draw, personally. I just didn't really like that, especially when I had the red stabilizers. I don't know. It just was one of those things I normally never see, and when I saw it, it was odd and a little bit distracting, to be honest. Other things that I really love about it is that Win&Win spent the time to include plenty of adapters to adapt from 5/16 24 to 1/4 20, which are your very common stabilizer weight systems. Recurves more towards the 1/4 20. Almost no compound stabilizer or compound system uses that, but a lot of multi-purpose stabilizers use 5/16 24 these days. So it comes with the adapters in the actual dampers, and many of them, plus all of them in both ends of the adapters, because that's the 1/4 20 end sticking out. They spent the time to broach a Allen hex key into the actual adapter, and that saved me multiple times today. Probably 6 or 8 different times today I had to pull my Allen wrenches out and use them to remove the adapters when they were either stuck in the dampers, stuck in the weights, or stuck in the stabilizer. And that's just part of playing with stabilizers. These threaded rods get stuck, and they're a bit of the pain in the butt to get out if you don't have specialized pliers or some way to grab onto threads without damaging them, because then it renders that bolt useless. So I really like that they spent the time to do all of that stuff. So there's a lot I really like about the stabilizer system. Now, one of the only things that I don't like about them is their natural resonance with no damper. They're very pingy, very loud. And when you have no damper on them at all, they definitely let you know. They're super loud, like that rooster is over there right now, and they definitely absolutely need a damper on them. And like I said, if I was more towards the recreational end of the spectrum, like I am kind of now because I'm just shooting for fun, I would go with the multi-damper personally. If you're more into performance and you like tinkering, that ADT damper with the damper cup is also very cool. And the adjustability actually works. I'm very happy to report. When I first played with them, I couldn't feel a stiffness difference in them because by hand you really can't, at least I couldn't. But as I tightened them up, the limb flutter went up, the noise went up, and the vibration went up, showing me that they were getting stiffer, or at least the reaction of them was getting stiffer. So something is working in that system, and I'm happy to report that it actually works. So I really like the system overall, and as far as the quality of these things, it's off the charts. There's not something that I'm wishing to see different as far as the finish, the fit, the machine quality, the thread tolerance, the straightness, the stiffness. It's all just, it's there. I really like this system. And this one here, this black system, could be yours along with this Meta LX riser and your choice of the NSXP in foam or wood, as well as the MXT XT in foam or wood, your choice of length and weight and all that. We're giving it away currently on my website, jkaminski.com, kaminskiarchery.com. Again, there's links down in the description below with all the details to that giveaway. There's no purchase necessary. There is a free way to enter, but the easiest way to enter and to get bonus entries is to head to the website, and every order you spend, every dollar you spend there is one entry into the random giveaway, which we will be doing after November 30th when it ends. So be sure to get in and enter if you're interested in winning this super ultra premium recurve setup. I'd be super happy to send it to you no matter where you are in the globe. And again, quick reminder, if you are interested in these ACS-LX stabilizers, links down in the description below. Those are affiliate links. Genuinely, it really helps this channel out when you click those links before you shop there. And it helps support the channel, helps allow me to buy equipment to do more reviews on the channel. Speaking of that, I've got the new formula from Hoyt coming up that I will be reviewing very shortly that I did purchase with my own money. But again, huge thanks to Win&Win for sending me this gear for free so I could review it on the channel and get it out to you, the consumer, with unbiased feedback. This channel is entirely supported by viewers like you, essentially. I'm not sponsored. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to enter into this giveaway. Can't wait to see who this ends up going to.